Hi there and welcome to a video series on the training offered Jupyter Notebook on the 20th of October. This is a video format to complement the text-based format and the in-person format of the training, just hopefully helping people in a step-by-step instructional video way in case people prefer that approach to any other. Over the course of this video, I'll do a step-by-step tutorial on how to install, getting set up, exploring and adding extensions to Jupyter Notebook, and hopefully this will alleviate any worries or concerns about installing this program. So to install Jupyter Notebook, there are two ways of doing so. I would suggest following both routes. So the easiest route is the Anaconda route. This, you just click through to the Anaconda page, you download the software, and once it's downloaded, you'll have two things on your machine, which I'll show you now. The first is what is called the Anaconda Navigator, which if we click that and open, it'll open up this little terminal, close that down, and then it'll initialize. This is the easiest way to get Jupyter set up. As you can see, it's outdated. I need to update that. As you can see here, Jupyter Notebook is here, the latest version, and I can just click launch if I so desire. Now, we won't be doing just this, even though it's the easiest, because we need another aspect called pip later on down the road. So we might as well get that all set up and ready now. So we've downloaded that. That's fantastic. All good. But now we need to do part of the pip route as well. And I'll do all of these steps as well, just in case you want to subtly do this. Just on top of all of that, the second aspect of Anaconda that will be downloaded is what is called the Anaconda prompt. This is basically a terminal that we will use for all of our code. It includes conda and pip, both of which we'll be using in this tutorial. So first off, what we see here is the pip route. So for the pip route, you need an updated version of Python. Some of you may already have Python on your machines, which is great. Others may not, so it's always best just to check. So I'll type this out in real time so as not to go too fast for all of you. But this code you can just copy and paste into your Anaconda prompt, and it should show you what Python you have. Now, for some of you, it will show nothing. If that's the case, you follow these instructions in this link. You go to the Python downloads, and you download the most recent python.exe folder. If you're doing this in a normal PowerShell or terminal on your computer and it's Windows, you can instead just type Python and it will download, take you to the Windows Store and make you download it through the Windows Store. Both options work. Probably using the these instructions link is preferable. You'll run into less issues there. So the second thing we need is pip itself. So to do that, again, we just follow the code that's laid out for you here. Upgrade pip. What this will do, this will download pip, and if pip isn't if pip is already downloaded, it will see if there's an update available and update it like that. Here we go. So it says that the requirement for me is already satisfied. For you, it would take you down a download and would finish with you back at your base. So the one of the last things we need to do is actually install Jupyter. Now we've already installed Jupyter on this machine, but just to show you how that works with this. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. So we'll do pip3 install Jupyter. And again, it's saying requirement already satisfied because I already have all of these, but just to show you how you would do it if you wanted to do it this route. Finally, we do one more piece of code just to double check that everything is working all correctly. Which again, it is also showing that everything is working as intended. Now, finally, when you've done all of this, you should be able to launch your Jupyter Notebook. Like you can through the Anaconda Navigator. You can also do it in the Anaconda prompt itself. I would suggest, even though it feels easier to do through the Navigator, it's best to get used to using the prompt, because you'll be using this a lot for adding extensions and doing some more advanced things with Jupyter later on down the line. So it's always best just to get familiar in this environment, because from experience, you will run into a lot of errors, and it's best to understand what they are instead of just trying to always Google them, which you'll always find happens a lot. So typing in Jupyter Notebook, as you can see, it's slowly booting up, and now it's opened on my web page. You can see here, however, that the local host, that means that whilst it's open on a web page, my default browser Chrome, it's not actually a website, it's all stored locally on my machine. And as if I wanted to, I could open a default kernel, which is Python, and here we are in my default Jupyter Notebook, which I can type some lovely code in. So that's this Substack completed. Wonderful. Moving on to the next, what we have here is getting set up in our Jupyter Notebook. So now that we've installed it and set it up, we now need to set it up ready for use as data scientists, social scientists, whatever we want to call ourselves. To do this, we need to do a couple of things, but most importantly, we need to set up Stata, because that's what we're here to learn about today. You can use R, which I've put a link to if you want to check that out. I personally use Stata with my Jupyter Notebooks, so do this at your own peril. I'll have limited knowledge to help you on the day with that. So again, we go back to our Anaconda prompt, and we have some more code to put in. So for Stata to work with Jupyter, it needs a basis to interact with it, and that's what we understand as the Stata setup package. So to do that, we first need to install it, which naturally you need to close your Jupyter Notebook before you do that. So everything gets closed again. We close that, and then we reopen our prompt. Otherwise, it won't let you type in it. So there we are, back here. So again, we need to install. Again, if it's already installed, it will check to see if it needs an upgrade. If not, it'll just install from the base. As you can see, common mistake when you're typing in code is that you will make spelling mistakes, which I do very often. Again, if I just type this out properly. There we go. Requirement satisfied, no updates needed, but you will have yours downloaded. So that's great. We have what we need. And now we can exit that for now. So now we go back into our Jupyter Notebook. So if we want to do it through our Anaconda prompt, we again just type Jupyter Notebook, and it will load up for us. Great. So again, we'll just open up our unentitled notebook that we haven't written anything in just yet. We'll go back here. So any Jupyter Notebook that you start needs to have Stata imported into it. Now we've downloaded the Stata setup import for it, but we also need to include this as code during the first cell of any Jupyter Notebook. So the first thing we need to include is import Stata setup. which we'll do right now like that. The next thing we need to do is link that Stata setup to Stata itself. So we've got Jupyter connected to Stata setup, connected to stata.exe, which you should all have downloaded on your machines already. This is what this code is doing here. Now, there are two things that you need to input yourself in this. The first is a directory which hosts Stata on your local machine. And the second is the version of Stata that you are using. Most commonly, universities will use SE, but just double check if you're not too sure on your own machine. Now, if you don't know where Stata is located on your machine, what we can do is we can open Stata itself. I've already got an option of Stata open, but I'll do a brand new one for us. Remind me later. This code here tells you exactly where Stata is located. As you can see for me, it's in C, program files, Stata 18. So I will do import Stata setup, followed by this line of code, which tells it where it is and what version of Stata it is. With that, I'll click run. And as you can see here, it's got a live copy of Stata within our notebook. This will show you live code. Every time you put code in here, it will come out like this. Just a note with the very old Mac OSs, if any of you have that, quite a common error in this issue comes up with a segmentation fault 11. This isn't an issue with Jupyter, but this is an issue with Python and its core packages. To fix this, just type in this code followed by Jupyter Notebook. And with that, you should be set up ready to do any kind of data analysis. So we've downloaded and we've configured it to our liking. Next off, I'll teach you how to actually code in Jupyter. Now, this shouldn't be any different from how you code normally. This should mean that if you're used to Stata, you're used to Jupyter. The only difference is that in every instance of a code or cell block, which is what we have here, this is one cell block, this is another cell block. Every instance of this needs to start off by telling Jupyter that we're using Stata code, because Jupyter itself allows over 40 programming languages, all to interact with one another. In one notebook, you can have every single language possible, all interacting with each other, all within the same code and database. So it needs to tell itself what exactly we're coding in. So that's what this %% Stata tells us to do. Just as an example, I will open up a database that I have in my local computer. So this is just opening up a occupational codings for fathers in the National Childhood Development Survey. If we just click run, as you can see, this is the live Stata code that you would have if you were running Stata normally, and it executed and it completed. You can tell that it's completed properly because there's no error like there would be in Stata, and it's moved on to a next cell block. As you can see, this happens with pretty much everything we can see. Now, finally, in the basics of Jupyter Notebook, we have keyboard shortcuts. Now, I won't show you all of these on video, but you can play around with them yourself. These are all pretty self-explanatory, but I'll leave you to read all of those that are pretty easy to figure out. Just one more thing when it comes to the basics of Jupyter, and that is an introduction to Markdown. Now, any of you that use perhaps Obsidian for your note-taking will know what Markdown files are. They're simply text files that incorporate HTML and CSS into their sort of DNA, and it allows you to write pretty nice looking text. So a markdown file is simply a text file, unlike the code block, which we see is marked as code. If we want to tell people what we're doing, say after we've imported but before we've used our occupational data, we can just click the little plus icon here and it inserts in between these two. We don't want to talk about code, we want markdown. And in this we can simply write, this is simple text. Wonderful. There is some nifty things that you can do with this, however. Again, I'll leave you to explore this yourself. But you can see we can have multiple headings. We can include bold or italics. We can have paragraphs being separated by lines, lists, asterisks, orders, and more, as well as hyperlinks and alt text included as well. So we can do pretty much everything we want here. You can see this is the code itself in a markdown cell, and this is what it looks like executed. These are the headings, we've got lists, we've also got a picture and hyperlinks as well. Jupyter can also produce equations in LaTeX format. Now, anyone that uses LaTeX will be familiar with what this looks like and what this is. But again, this is what it looks like in a markdown, and this is what it looks like as you execute it. Very, compared to something like Word, a lot easier to use. Again, this is just all of the LaTeX-based notation that you require if you want to start playing around with that. But apart from that, we're all done, which is great. Just one more thing on sharing notebooks. Notebooks are a .ipynb file. If you want to store them on your GitHub repository, which is quite common for social scientists, it doesn't just store it as a simple Word file where you need to download it to open it. A .ipynb file will open up on GitHub, and it will be easily explored, as you can see through the demonstration of a Jupyter Notebook for Roxanne Connolly and Vernon Gale's paper on cognitive ability into British birth cohorts. This is a fantastic thing to look at if you want to see just the range you can accomplish just with the basics of Jupyter Notebook. You see they've included all their code, they've included all of their paper, and if you scroll right to the very bottom, they've also included references and appendix as well. I'll have you look through that in your own time on that. Finally, I'll just grab the post up so you can all see. The more advanced element of this training comes in the version of Jupyter Notebook extensions. Now these are really, really cool and nifty and will really elevate your notebooks and also elevate your research, hopefully, because they offer lots of different types of extensions that just make your life a lot easier. So again, we're going to close our notebooks down, we're going to close our prompt down, and we're going to reopen them. Anaconda prompt, wonderful. So for this, we're going to need to use some code yet again. The first batch is installing what we call as NB extensions, which is where all of these extra extensions are hosted. Again, it will download for you. It's already satisfied for me, so that's all good. This might take a while for you. It's a pretty big file. You can either use that through pip, or you can use the Conda installation as well. Either one works. Now, you might get a slight issue where the extensions tab in Jupyter might not appear to you at first. If this does happen, you just type in this code here, which enables the user to see the extensions. You don't need this, but if it doesn't show, type this in and it should work for you first time. If you're still having problems, then I suggest you go to this GitHub post, which I've linked below, and this will have every single common issue of the extensions tab, which you can go through in your own time. Now, I won't show you all of these in real time. This is for you to explore. but just some of the extensions that we can have on offer. So move selected cells. This allows you to use some special shortkeys to move cells up or down without going into what we call command mode, which you'll learn about more in detail when you read. We have Hinterland, which adds an autocomplete feature to code, which is great if you make lots of spelling mistakes like you've seen during my video right now. Hide input or hide input all allows you to hide specific parts of your code. Now, if we're talking about open science practices, not great to do that, but when you're, say, loading a data set, like I gave you a live example of just now, most people don't need to see that. We can hide that if we want. Also have things like table of contents, a spell checker, headings and collapsible headings, auto save time, which is great for you to change the amount of time the notebook saves, execute time, which is great if you're really concentrating on efficiency in your code. It tells you how fast your code was to run. It also stamps your code with a date and time signature when you ran it. There's translation, highlighters, and also other extensions as well. So the one final one that I will show, which is outside of this extensions tab, is something called Rise. And again, we'll just jump into this before we show you off the extensions in the notebook. But just to show you how to do this, a simple installation, again already satisfied. What Rise does is converts your Jupyter Notebook in real time to a PowerPoint presentation that you can use to present your findings. This is really, really great if you don't want to have a Word document, a PowerPoint, some stata do files. Everything can be housed in one sole document. Now, everything has been downloaded, so we'll start by loading up Jupyter Notebook once more, and I'll show you the extensions tab. You may have already noticed them throughout. I had some of them already installed. But in your home page, if you look, the furthest tab should be your NB extensions, which is what we downloaded. And this has every single possible extension you can choose from. You can see that I have selected some of them already. Some of them have pictures with them and descriptions. Others don't. You might need to go to the GitHub page for the NB extensions to look and see exactly what they do themselves. But going into a file just now, I can show off just a couple of them. As you can see, executed in 909 ms, finished at time and date. That has already been a display of one of them, which is the time date stamp setup. It also flashes green if it's done successfully. Another couple are the the spell check. So that is on. So if I made an accidental error or something, it should highlight that for you. I've just turned it off. I'll turn it back on. Finally, there's a table of contents. So if, for example, I started to add headers to my notebook, if I were to add a table of contents, run it first, and refreshed the notebook, it should come up like so. And also this is the translation tool. It's translating currently from English to French. If I wanted to, I could translate and it will do that for me with the highlighted text. I'll leave you to explore these all on your own, however, and I hope this video training was useful. If you follow these steps exactly how I laid them out, you shouldn't run into any issues. If you do, feel free to email me or add a comment to the group page. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see most of you tomorrow.